Hi, everyone, and welcome back. Today, I'm excited to introduce to you the exclusive Tailored Expressions card kit called Nature's Canvas. This is a beautiful floral kit that you can use with watercoloring or with the coloring stencils provided in the kit, plus a few additional add ons. I will have all of my supplies linked down below in the video description if you're interested in any of the products. The products that I'm going to be using today is the Nature's Canvas stamp set, Timeless Greetings, and also their coordinating dies, plus the coordinating coloring stencil. A few other products that I'm going to be using, starting with the inks, is the VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink, Toffee, Sweet Basil, Brussels sprout, Sugar Cube, Oyster, Peaches and Cream, Sweet Potato Pie, Mulled Wine, Rose Water, Confetti Cake, Sour Gummy, Pineapple, and Dijon. I also have my Don't Stress Just Press tool, some white embossing powder, white foil drops bits and pieces, my anti-static powder tool, bleed-proof white ink, a dropper bottle filled with water, my star trinket tray, some scotch tape, my reverse tweezers, some liquid glue. Then I have a pick and stick tool, my die pick, and a couple paintbrushes, a large pair of scissors, and I found some more inks, including saltwater taffy, lavender glaze, and dried fig. I also have my scotch removable tape, post-it tape, my scotch tape, some thin black foam squares, my Misty stamping tool, and cardstock. I have sugar cube, sea salt, and black licorice. I also have Arches Stacklets, Shiplap Background, and Fineline script. For blending, I will be using my small blending brushes and my detail blending brushes. All right, so let's jump in. I'm going to start by taking a piece of sugar cube cardstock cut to 5.5 by 8.5, and I'm placing it in my Misty stamping tool. I'm picking out 3 of the main flower images, and I'm going to stamp them in Toffee ink. When I'm doing any type of coloring with a stencil over the top of a stamped image, I like to start with a neutral color of ink first, like Toffee ink. So I'm going to leave my stamps in place in the Misty tool. I'm placing removable tape on the back of my cardstock to secure it down to my work surface, and then I'm going to start ink blending. I'm lining up the first layer of the stencil for this flower, and I'm going to start ink blending with the saltwater taffy. Next, leaving that stencil in place, I'm going to come in with lavender glaze, starting more towards the center of the flower and blending my way out to the edges, being sure to leave a hint of that blue. And then I'm going to add even more detail and contrast using dried fig and a detail blending brush. Excuse my head while it pokes in. I realize my head pops in, so just give me 1 minute while it goes away. Now I can finally remove this first layer of the stencil, place the second one over the top, and I'm going to use the same colors in the exact same way, using the saltwater taffy, lavender glaze, and adding that contrast with the dried fig right at the very edge. I can move on to the third layer of the stencil, and that is going to be adding the center and the leaves. So with the center piece, I'm going to start with pineapple ink, and I'm going to blend that in. I'm also going to add a little bit of that pineapple to the tips of the leaves. For the contrast for the center of the flower, I am using Dijon ink with a detail blending brush, and then I'm going to move down to my leaves and start with a sweet basil. I'm starting more towards the stem and blending my way out, being sure to leave a little bit of that yellow highlight at the end. And then I'm going to come in with a Brussels sprout and a detail brush and really add that contrast to the base of the leaves. Now that this image is done, I'm going to work on the center flower. So I lined up the coordinating stencils for that. And I'm starting with Peaches and Cream ink, making sure to get a little light-handed as I get towards the edge of the petals. Then coming in with Sweet Potato Pie. And I'm going to add even more contrast in the center using mulled wine. I'll remove this layer of the stencil, shift it up to get the next layer of the stencil for this flower, and I'm going to use the exact same colors in the exact same way, starting with the peaches and cream, sweet potato pie, and mulled wine. Then I can line up the center portion for this particular flower, again using these same colors I did in my previous flower, which is going to be pineapple, and then adding that contrast to one side of the center piece using Dijon ink. I'm going to move on to my leaves, adding a little bit of that pineapple ink, then coming in with the sweet basil and adding that final contrast color using the Brussels sprout. For my last flower, I am going to be starting with a light pink just on the outer edges. I'm starting with rose water, again, just real light-handedly on the outer edge. I'm not starting from the center this time, just adding that highlight towards the edge. Then I'm going to come in with confetti cake, starting in the very center and blending my way out to the tips. And for the contrasting color, I'm going to bring in sour gummy to really add that depth and dimension. I will shift my stencil and I'm going to use the exact same colors and the exact same technique for the other petals on this flower and also the leaves. So I'm just going to show you the reveal, but by adding those three different colors in the flower, we are really creating some depth. I'm going to take my cardstock and place it back in my Misty tool just like I had it originally. And this time I'm going to stamp with the Nocturne VersaFine black ink, stamping that down to get a good impression using my Don't Stress, Just Press tool. And by stamping it once again, we are really going to make those colors pop. Now, before I remove my cardstock, I want to stamp a script sentiment over the top of it. This is the Fineline script background stamp. Make sure when you line this up, you have it going in the orientation that you want it. So I double checked my script. I'm inking it up with the sugar cube ink, but only kind of the bottom half of it because I need to clean it, shift it to get the other flower at the very end. So stamping it about 2 times to get that white to really stand out on some of those light areas. I shifted it. I'm going to cover my flower with a Post-it note and then stamp again with the sugar cube ink over the top of that last flower. That way I don't have any script that is askew or overlapping. I can then line up the coordinating dies and run these through my die cut machine. And I love how some of these areas kind of pop out to really help emphasize the stems. For the background of my card, I'm going to use the Shiplap Background. I'm going to be stamping this on sea salt cardstock. So I'm picking that stamp up with my Misty door. I'm going to put some repositionable tape on the back of my cardstock, line it up straight over the background, and then pick that up with the bottom of my Misty. Then I'm going to ink up that background using Oyster Ink, and I'll repeat if I feel necessary, if I want it to be darker. You also want to make sure to remove your black mat inside of your Misty when you are using red rubber stamps. Since I do have my Misty out, I'm going to go ahead and stamp a sentiment. I have black licorice cardstock placed down in the bottom corner. I conditioned it with an anti-static powder tool, and I'm using a sentiment off of the Timeless Greetings set included in the kit, inking that up and stamping that down a couple times using sugar cube ink. Then I'm going to sprinkle on some white detail embossing powder, tapping off any excess. And if you happen to find there's a little bit of something sticking up, you can take a paintbrush and just carefully wipe that away before you melt your embossing powder with your heat tool. Then I'm going to just buff over that with a Swiffer cloth to remove any excess powder, line up the coordinating die and hold in place with my Scotch tape, and die cut the sentiment out. I'm going to bring out my splatter box. I'm placing my background in there, and I mixed a little bit of water with the bleed proof white, and I'm splattering that onto the background and also each of the flowers. I have a die cut piece cut from sugar cube cardstock using the Artist Stacklet. I'm going to add some Scotch tape to the back of that and place that over the top of my stamp background. That's going to serve as kind of a resting place for my flowers. I am going to just attach my flowers using the liquid glue. So I place them down about how I want them on the front of the card and then start placing them down using that liquid glue. You could also use foam tape, but I really liked the flat look of this on this particular card sign. So I really like how these are kind of cascading in from the side and going down towards the bottom. And then I'm going to tuck my sentiment up into the top corner that I did add some thin black foam squares to the back of. I can flip that over, trim off any of the excess, and I had gone ahead and added this to a side folding card base. And now I'm going to embellish it with the white foil drops bits and pieces using a pickup tool and some liquid glue. I hope you enjoyed today's colorful card project using the brand new Nature's Canvas kit, which is now available at Tailored Expressions. All of these supplies will be linked down below in the video description and over on my blog as well. Thank you all for spending time with me today.